Do we really know what's in our food? Lasagna with horse meat? Artificial steaks? Falsely advertised olive oil, tuna with nitrates. The list of counterfeit food products is endless. Everything can be faked, from the most basic products to expensive ingredients. It's a trade of tens of billions of euros that runs quietly across our borders. To dive into food fraud is to embark on a journey into an unknown land. Whistleblowers and factory workers, kept in the dark, will reveal hidden truths. Courageous journalists and persistent prosecutors will help us understand what goes on behind the scenes. The fight is on against this serious crime that involves everyone from criminals to mafia leaders. The outcome is uncertain, as these traffickers operate within a gigantic market through which all our food transits. How did they manage to gain control over our food? Long-hidden, scandalous practices are going to be revealed. An unprecedented investigation into the world of food fraud.
Responsable est demandé en caisse 2.
Demandez en caisse centrale, s'il vous plaît. Tibi en caisse centrale, merci.
Food products are recalled from supermarket shelves on a regular basis. Most of the time, we don't even notice it. Yet it makes us doubt our food, to which we devote a large part of our lives, and which is as essential as the air we breathe. Sometimes the contents can be misleading. It is late 2012 in Ireland. The Director of Food Supervision notices that the price of beef has dropped. He orders DNA sampling of meat from 27 commercially sold burgers.
We found one product with about 1/3 horse DNA in it, and which was just an incredible finding. We went back and checked, we double-checked, and we triple-checked, because we understood that if we were to go out public with such a story, it was going to have, quite an effect.
It started out as hamburger, then lasagna, then moussaka and ravioli. Prevention tests in the spring of 2013 revealed horse meat in products where it was not expected.
At the time, we thought it was an Irish problem. It turned out to be a global problem. And products have been withdrawn from shelves in places like Singapore, Hong Kong, in some of the Caribbean countries. So really, we are looking at what really has developed into a massive fraud.
It was a fraud in the world of minced meat products, the most common meat product, especially in ready-made meals. This scandal could have gone unnoticed, like many others. But the Irish authorities have made this public, and their revelations have raised an unprecedented wave of outrage. Ingrid Craggle started her career as an investigator on this case. She is a member of Food Watch, a European organisation that protects consumers.
L'Irlande, elle a balancé toutes les infos. Elle balance tout. Elle balance les noms des marques, elle balance les lieux des points de vente. Elle demande aussi à l'industrie de faire des tests, toute l'industrie de la viande, des milliers de tests. Et étonnamment, elle met tous les tests en ligne. Toutes les informations sont disponibles. Et ça, c'était quand même exceptionnel.
This ingredient replacement involved 4.5 million ready-to-eat meals, distributed by the biggest brands throughout Europe. Who was able to set up such an operation? A large-scale investigation was launched. A number of clues led to the Netherlands and mobilized the Dutch fraud police.
Where is the source of this? That was the big question. Who put the horse meat inside the beef products?
Karen Gusau is the head of a department that has the same investigative power as a narcotics squad. 17 detectives and financial analysts are in charge of tracking down fraudsters.
The main thing that we do when we carry out criminal investigations is to reconstruct the money flow and the flow of goods and connect these together.
The Dutch police investigated the obscure networks of minced meat. They first identified the manufacturers who make beef recipes. Behind these manufacturers, they found several wholesalers. These wholesalers worked with traders, market specialists who buy and sell online in quantities of hundreds of thousands of tons.
La filière était très opaque parce qu'il y avait derrière des traders. Et il est très difficile pour les autorités de mettre la main sur des traders qui n'ont parfois pas de siège en Europe. D'ailleurs, les responsables de l'époque parlent d'une véritable plongée dans la comptabilité. Ça a été très très complexe pour eux.
The police identified a Dutch meat trader, Jan Vassen.
So Jan Vassen is actually someone we've known for a long time. He first caught our attention in 2008 when we arrested him exactly because of this fact. So we were hoping that would scare him off. But then in 2013, we discovered that he hadn't stopped.
To cover his tracks, Jan Vassen moved to Belgium, where he teamed up with, among others, the owner of this warehouse. Here they stored frozen horse meat, which was half the price of beef, €2 per kilo instead of 4. His profits were estimated at 20 million euros per year.
Jan Vassen had to hire an office space in a big freezer complex. He had an employee that was changing labels daily. He had businesses in Cyprus and in other countries. He made a whole business of it. It was his daily work. That doesn't sound easy to me.
Jan Vassen was the head of a huge network. His company was registered in Cyprus and imported horse meat from Canada and Romania. This meat was then sold to his associate wholesalers. The two main ones were located in Belgium and France. It was at these companies that the fraud took place. The horse meat was transformed into beef by the magic of a label. The wholesalers sent the fake minced meat to Luxembourg to a manufacturer of ready-made meals. These fake products were distributed to hundreds of supermarkets.
Il y avait la responsabilité de ceux qui l'achetaient à des prix ridicules, de ceux qui l'utilisaient, mais personne, en tout cas c'est ce qu'ils prétendent, n'a vérifié l'ADN de la viande. Et donc dans des quantités phénoménales comme ça, avec autant d'opérateurs économiques, c'est quand même étonnant.
This collective misconduct has angered a man who is at the heart of this industry. Christophe Brousset had been working for 20 years as a trader in major food processing groups.
Tout ce que j'entendais, c'était soit des industriels ou leurs représentants qui disaient mais non, c'est un cas isolé, chez nous, on a la meilleure industrie alimentaire du monde, c'est fini, c'était avant, maintenant c'est clean. Mais je connaissais évidemment les pratiques du milieu. Et c'est à ce moment-là que je me suis dit, bon, ce serait quand même pas mal que quelqu'un en parle. Et là, j'ai commencé à parler, oui. Parce que j'attendais que quelqu'un d'autre le fasse et personne ne le faisait.
Christophe Brousset has decided to break the silence as he himself has committed fraud.
Oui, j'ai dû acheter des produits que normalement j'aurais pas achetés, oui. Parce qu'on me le demandait, parce que déjà j'avais pas le choix. Donc quand on est employé en général, on fait ce son patron demande. Donc moi on me demandait d'acheter des produits qui étaient de mauvaise qualité, donc j'étais contraint de le faire. Il y avait une fraude généralisée, oui. Sur un produit, sur plusieurs produits, oui. Sur le miel, sur le poivre, sur le cumin, sur le paprika, sur plein de produits.
In 2013, a whistleblower exposed widespread fraudulent practices in the food processing industry.
Il faut bien comprendre que ce n'est pas un acheteur tout seul qui décide de frauder, par exemple. C'est un environnement. À la fois sa structure à lui, qui décide de frauder, à la fois ses fournisseurs, qui lui proposent des produits pour frauder, et à la fois des clients qui acceptent de recevoir des produits à des prix qui ne sont pas normaux.
Christophe Brousset's findings did not provoke the sort of reaction he was expecting among the manufacturers. However, his outrage and that of millions of European citizens has forced the European authorities to act.
J'ai fermé les yeux, donc j'étais dans un environnement qui ne me permettait pas réellement de prendre du recul.
It is here in Brussels that the major rules concerning food are written up. It is then up to the individual states to implement them. For Eric Marin, an official at the European Commission, the horse meat scandal, known as Horsegate, was a turning point.
L'emballement médiatique a fait que c'est devenu une crise et qu'il a fallu gérer cette crise.
Eric Marin was proud of the European health surveillance system. He discovered that Europe is not well equipped to deal with this new problem that is affecting our food.
Ici, on s'est dit, mais tout le système qu'on a bâti pendant des années, parce qu'on a construit, la chaîne alimentaire est une des plus sûres au monde, en Europe. On a bâti tout un système qui était lié à comment détecter les problèmes de santé publique. Et là, quelque part, on se retrouvait complètement désarmé face à quelque chose qui est moins contrôlé dans les entreprises. Et il y a une prise de conscience générale qu'il fallait faire quelque chose, non plus simplement pour détecter les problèmes de santé publique, mais détecter les suspicions de fraude. Bonjour tout le monde.
The Food Fraud Network was created for this. European officials struggle all year long to detect and track down counterfeit food products. All accidental modifications are dismissed. Only cases of intentional manipulation are investigated.
In an African swine fever area.
Ok, très clair, Carla. Bon, ça c'est vraiment de la fraude, hein, donc on les met dans notre rapport semanal pour les États membres. On est passé ici à la création d'un réseau européen avec des points de contact dans chaque État membre où on pouvait échanger des informations confidentielles, sensibles, en toute confiance, pour pouvoir agir et coopérer entre les États membres. Et ça, c'était déjà une première révolution.
For this to happen, the 27 European states must be flawlessly compliant. This is not always the case, as demonstrated by a recent case involving beef. It happened in 2019, 6 years after Horsegate. The scandal was serious, and France was at the heart of it. This time, the fraud concerned a public order for 1,500 tons of minced steaks, intended to distribute to charities. These charities raised the alarm when they discovered the whitish colour of these steaks originating from Poland. Why did the French government choose Polish suppliers?
Pour moi, c'est assez difficile à comprendre parce qu'on est un des pays avec la plus belle industrie agricole, avec probablement les meilleurs produits au monde. Donc on aille acheter du steak à l'autre bout de l'Europe, dans des pays où on sait très bien, enfin, la réputation de la Pologne en termes de qualité alimentaire est exécrable, extrêmement mauvaise.
European buyers have become fixated on Polish beef. Suppliers are undercutting prices, partially due to highly competitive labour costs. Poland has become one of the world's leading meat producers. A business that in 2017 was worth almost 6 billion euros.
C'est devenu un acteur économique sur le secteur de la viande absolument incontournable. Tout le monde se fournit là-bas. On a vu cette explosion en fait, du marché, du commerce. Il y a eu énormément d'investissements. Le véritable problème, c'est que les contrôles n'ont pas suivi.
The charities had the Polish steaks delivered to them, analysed. The results confirmed all their suspicions.
Là, ce que donnent les analyses qui ont été faites sur les produits.
Alors, on trouve du tissu osseux, on trouve du tissu conjonctif, des glandes, des muqueuses, des tissus lymphoïdes. Donc en fait, voilà, ça a été remplacé par tous les sous-produits possibles et tous les déchets d'abattoir qu'on peut trouver. Voilà. C'est assez peu ragoûtant. Donc voilà. Donc, en termes de protéines, non seulement on n'est pas suffisamment haut, mais en plus, pour faire monter le taux de protéines, on a mis des protéines végétales. Donc il y a quasiment, oui, il y a très peu de viande en fait dans ce produit.
Beef has been replaced with byproducts. The substitution is all the more shocking since the steaks were intended for people in need. But how do you find out who is responsible? The European Food Fraud Network has no investigative power.
Il est très clair que la Commission n'a aucun pouvoir de police. Ça relève vraiment des États membres, et c'est eux qui font les enquêtes, ils échangent les informations, et l'enquête est déclenchée dans le pays qui reçoit cette information.
So it is the Polish government that has to take over. The Polish veterinary authorities are launching a series of controls aimed at the manufacturer, the company Biernacki. It is one of the new giants of beef production. It is subjected to the same regulatory obligations as in the rest of Europe.
Kiedy zostały wyprodukowane te kotlety, jest pobierana tak zwana kontrpróbka i zostawiana na miejscu w zakładzie. Wszelkie informacje, wszelkie wyniki tej kontroli zostały przekazane oczywiście przez system AAC stronie francuskiej. Natomiast mogę powiedzieć, że te kontrole, które zostały tam przeprowadzone, nie potwierdziły tego zafałszowania tych kotletów. Także my tak naprawdę zakończyliśmy na tym sprawę.
In conclusion, there is nothing to investigate here. We tried to question the Polish company's managers, but we were rejected several times. Meanwhile, there is another case which 2 Polish journalists have been working on for the past 6 months. It will raise suspicions about the country's entire beef industry. One of them, Patrick Sapaniak, managed to get himself hired in a small countryside slaughterhouse.
We got a tip that there's some illegal procedure happening in one of the slaughterhouses. We knew before that there are similar procedure ongoing in other slaughterhouse, but this one, we knew exactly that this is going on. The slaughterhouse itself is in the middle of nowhere, so there is no possibility to take a look without getting anyone's attention. So I changed some of my appearance, changed some of my behavior, and went for a job interview to the slaughterhouse. It might sound ridiculous, but I got the job. And then the next day, I started to work as a slaughterman. The first trucks of cows, sick or dead ones, were coming out. Like, few of them have some rotting parts, few of them, they have some white thing going out through their mouth. And there was no vet, of course, nearby. He just came up early in the morning to check out heads of cows, not the meat. He behaved like this bovine meat magically popped out in the middle of the night. And he just comes there and I don't see anything.
Broadcasted on television, their investigation triggered a political crisis.
Tomasz Patora, telewizja TVN. Co panowie tutaj robicie?
The journalists showed that other slaughterhouses in the country have the same practices. They bought cows for meat processing at low prices and sold the meat at full price.
It got a big effect. And then our Ministry of Agriculture had to take some actions. They ordered massive checkups in every single slaughterhouse in Poland, which is like 400 of them. But the one who's being inspected knows about it like in a week in advance, so there is no surprise effect. I talked with several former ministers of agriculture and deputies, which told me that this this scandal, like everybody knew about it, that is going on, but it was convenient to basically leave it on and work it because it's pure profit, right?
Meat not fit for consumption entered the food chain through a weak link, the slaughterhouses. Then it spread through the entire marketing network.
The meat from this slaughterhouse where I worked was founded in like 14 countries: France, Germany, Czech Republic, Saudi Arabia, Turkey.
The fraud caused a diplomatic crisis at the European level. Inspectors sent by Brussels then audited the entire Polish beef industry. Their report confirmed numerous shortcomings in sanitary procedures and traceability.
Ils fournissent toute l'Europe à des prix défiant toute concurrence. Et donc, on a un souci. Cette viande, potentiellement, part sur les marchés sans qu'elle ait été correctement contrôlée.
The state didn't really change the law, so it's still happening somewhere over there, right?
How can one effectively fight against food fraud when the state doesn't even take action?
Les administrations vont effectivement donner plus ou moins d'attention à la fraude alimentaire. Alors, est-ce qu'on peut parler de bons et de mauvais élèves? Vous savez, chaque administration fait avec son passif, avec son passé et avec ses moyens. Hein, il faut en être conscient.
One country prides itself on being at the forefront of the fight against fraud: Italy. They are the first country in Europe to have put in place detection measures, yet it is overwhelmed by fraud. The challenge is in keeping with the success of Italian cuisine and the worldwide appeal of each of its products.
Il parmigiano in generale, il prosciutto, l'aceto balsamico, l'olio extravergine, insomma i prodotti più importanti vengono sofisticati. Il danno è al mercato, il danno è all'immagine del prodotto italiano.
Ludovico Vicaro is one of the few Italian magistrates specialized in criminal cases involving food.
Ricordo quando ero un giovane sostituto, mi occupavo anche di queste cose, e c'era uno che con il suo furgoncino vendeva in varie parti d'Italia sempre quest'olio sofisticato. Però lo faceva a livello, come dire, di un giro di affari molto limitato. Oggi è diventata una grande industria.
Food fraud affects all Italian products. How can the Italian authorities stop it? A special unit has been created to save the national gastronomic heritage. Its efforts are focused on one food product in particular. 9 out of 10 Italians consume it, and the demand is growing rapidly. Italian extra virgin olive oil is number 1 on the world market. This gem brings in 1.2 billion euros each year for the Italian state.
Fare la segnalazione a eBay tramite Vero. Il prodotto non è in Italia, è all'estero.
È ceduto all'estero?
È un'inserzione che abbiamo su ebay.de.
Counterfeiters borrow the names of real companies to market their fake products. Italian controllers have the means to demand that online sales platforms immediately take down fraudulent ads.
Nel sistema di controlli che è stato implementato, un sistema di controlli che è abbastanza stringente, anzi possiamo dire molto più stringente rispetto a altri paesi, anche perché l'olio extravergine oliva è un prodotto su cui tanto punta il Ministero dell'Agricoltura, la produzione nazionale.
To assess the effectiveness of this system, we must dive into the industry, starting with the olive trees. Italy is a land of traditional production, and one region is more so than any other, Tuscany. In the village where Leonardo da Vinci was born, Luigi carries on the tradition of Italian extra virgin olive oil. He is experiencing a dramatic drop in profits.
Quest'anno a luglio non avevo più olio, perché io quando ho finito il mio olio biologico non lo vendo più. Quando non ce l'ho più, non lo vendo più, l'ho finito, ce n'è più.
Global warming and the abundance of insects are putting a strain on national production, and yet Luigi notes that big brands supply the supermarkets of Italy and Europe all year long with extra virgin olive oil sold at knockdown prices.
E succede questo, che sono delle aziende, degli orefici abbastanza grossi, tipo nome non ne posso fare, va bene? Che importano olive con queste catene di supermercati che vendono l'olio 5 litri a 16 euro. È una vergogna. Quest'olio di merda, la posso dire merda? Hai capito?
In order to supply the world market, these big manufacturers don't harvest, press or produce on site, unlike Luigi. They gather, produce and add fragrance, and their oil is then the result of complex blending, which includes a large portion of imported oil. This is how the fraud begins. The port of Livorno is the main unloading point for goods in Tuscany. A special system set up by the Italian fraud control authorities is in place here. Every day, a ship unloads its cargo of extra virgin olive oil. Manufacturers bring in the precious liquid from all over the Mediterranean basin.
Facciamo uno screening su alcuni fornitori dalla Spagna e vediamo poi il risultato.
These imports will be mixed with the national production and sold as Italian extra virgin olive oil. This is legal under one condition, that all the criteria for extra virgin olive oil be met.
Interessante per noi, perché è olio che ha già un po' di anni.
Italian inspectors are looking for imported foreign oil of poor quality, too acidic or not fruity enough. Imitation is easy, and if it is discovered, the oil is simply registered in a lower category, stating that an error has crept into the documents.
Spesso, abbiamo visto, il declassamento avviene mentre ancora stiamo facendo il campione. Quindi cosa vuol dire? L'azienda era consapevole che il prodotto non era tanto buono, però ci provo, vediamo, no? Se non ci sono controlli. Ci sono i controlli, allora io declasso il prodotto, non è più extravergine, prima ancora che sia analizzato.
Random checks at the port are of very little effectiveness. This is why the fraud control agents have concentrated their efforts on another stage of the production chain. A few kilometers away, a producer agreed to let us watch how this European unique surveillance system works.
Permesso. Siamo venuti per un controllo.
A computer program allows the controllers to follow in real time all the producers of extra virgin olive oil. Each delivery must be declared.
Illicit.
Ne avete 2 c'è di questa stagione.
Quindi non è presente sul nostro registro, perché abbiamo visto non ci sono movimentazioni, a meno che non sia entrata qualche altra.
È arrivato stamattina questo.
Perfetto.
Per 83 quintali.
Before launching an investigation, the inspector knows exactly what he needs to find in the tanks. The quantity, the oil that is produced on site, the oil that is imported. Everything must be recorded by the producer. This meticulous control is equivalent to putting the entire production of Italian olive oil under administrative supervision.
Servono 5 lattine per poter fare cosa. Cerchiamo di prenderle il più random possibile.
Prego.
While everything seems to be in order with this producer, random samples will be taken and sent for analysis. This is the only way to ensure the authenticity of the extra virgin olive oil.
Però è una garanzia per noi che lavoriamo e che vogliamo produrre un olio italiano di qualità. Ecco, quindi ben vengano, anzi, vengono ancora più controlli più stretti, più stringenti, più forti.
Is there a double standard between small manufacturers and large ones? It is rumoured among producers that the Italian authorities tend to spare the major producers of the market. All the while, the quality of their oil is regularly called into question by independent bodies. In May 2021, the consumer protection magazine Salvagente tested 15 bottles of oil from major brands. They were sent to public laboratories for analysis. The result was that 7 out of 15 bottles were not extra virgin.
C'è un'attenzione, ecco, negli ultimi anni alla tutela dell'olio di oliva, come di altri prodotti italiani, però non sono ancora sufficienti controlli a evitare le truffe.
It almost seems like encouragement for criminals. Further south, in Puglia, lies the largest area of intensive olive oil production. It's here that traffickers have developed one of the most daring cases of food fraud in recent years. Ludovico Vaccaro came across them by chance. Their code name is Operation Yellow Gold.
È nata quasi per caso, perché è stato visto che venivano vendute delle bottiglie di olio a 3 euro, 3,50 euro. Ora l'olio di oliva extravergine, anche al contadino che lo produce, costa di più. Quindi è subito nato il sospetto che non potesse essere olio extravergine di oliva.
Sent for analysis by the investigators, these bottles turned out to contain rapeseed oil. At this stage, Ludovico Vaccaro does not yet realize the size of the traffic.
In tutte queste confezioni, sia la bottiglia da 1 litro, sia quelle più piccole, quelle tipiche da ristorante, erano indicati degli oleifici inesistenti, cioè proprio non esisteva. Addirittura non solo non esisteva l'oleificio, ma spesso non esisteva proprio quella via in quel paese in cui veniva indicata. Erano degli oleifici fantasma, ghost. Abbiamo fatto intercettazioni telefoniche, abbiamo fatto delle intercettazioni telematiche sulle mail, abbiamo fatto accertamenti patrimoniali, abbiamo messo GPS per seguire i camion, abbiamo fatto servizi di pedinamento. Insomma, è stata fatta un'indagine molto, molto complessa che è durata 2 anni.
These are methods comparable to those used against the Mafia. In this case, it was an entire clandestine organization made up of 34 people.
Qui si vede l'arrivo dell'olio, quindi olio sfuso che è arrivato in Italia e viene trasportato dentro l'oleificio e veniva da navi cisterna da varie parti del mondo. Qui invece vediamo i camion che partono per la Germania. Penso che un camion di questi conteneva più di 20.000 litri. Guardi che macchinari, no? Sofisticati per l'imbottigliamento. Questo per fare le etichette. Cioè era una industria vera e propria.
A perfectly structured network which bypassed the Italian food surveillance system. The transporters imported rapeseed oil, most often from Turkey, from the nearest port, Ancona. Usually it was out of date. The network leader directed the transformation of the rapeseed oil into fake olive oil in the clandestine workshop. The resellers then took charge of it and travelled the roads to sell it to Italian, Swiss and German restaurants. Some of them were renowned and even visited by the German Chancellor or the Italian President.
guardi, questa è la questo è la sostanza, questo che vede, questo colore verde intenso, poi veniva messo, bastano poche gocce e dava all'olio di semi, che ha di solito una colorazione più chiara, no? Quel tipico colore verde che è il tipico dell'olio. Poi aggiungendo a volte il beta-carotene si cercava di dare anche, dal punto di vista del profumo, una caratteristica organolettica, diciamo noi, che si avvicinasse all'olio. Della oliva non aveva neanche l'ombra, neanche una parte, cioè era al 100% un olio che non conosceva l'oliva.
I 5 litri non sono quelli, capito?
Within the network, the traffickers are feeling lucky. Counterfeiting olive oil is easy and makes a lot of money.
Proviamo a fare un po' di calcoli. Quest'olio di semi aveva un costo di 70, massimo 80 centesimi. Poi veniva trasportato a Cerignola, veniva sofisticato, aveva alla fine un costo di €1, €1,10, €1,20 al massimo. Messo sul mercato, agli stessi componenti dell'associazione veniva venduto a €3, €3,50, c'è un grossissimo guadagno. Ma poi a loro volta questi intermediari, pure partecipi dell'associazione per delinquere, lo rivendevano un prezzo molto più alto, dai 5 fino ai €10.
In 2 years, the fraudsters have cashed in €7 million.
Uno degli indagati è stato arrestato e processato per la sofisticazione alimentare, ma credo una decina di volte. Ciò vuol dire sono 30 anni che va avanti.
Impunity seems to prevail in food fraud cases. The criminal sanctions incurred by traffickers indicted in these cases are not deterring enough.
La semplice attività di sofisticazione alimentare, le pene sono lievi, ma pene che vanno fino a 2-3 anni e però possono poi in concreto essere molto più basse.
Vous avez beaucoup moins de risques en termes de sanctions judiciaires que si vous avez trafiqué sur de la drogue, des armes ou autre chose. Donc, forcément, c'est un secteur qui attire les fraudeurs.
It's not surprising, then, that Italian mafias have turned their attention to these new types of trafficking. Now, anti-mafia brigades are discovering food counterfeits among other illegal commodities, such as weapons or drugs. In 2017, during the arrest of one of the most powerful street gangs in Calabria, Italian police officers uncovered a fake olive oil made from industrial lubricants that was being exported to the United States.
La mafia e le organizzazioni criminali in genere, ma quelle mafiose a maggior ragione, va sempre in un'unica direzione, dove ci sono gli affari, dove si fanno soldi e si fa denaro.
Vous avez des entreprises qui sont mafieuses, mais elles ne vous le disent pas, quoi. Vous ne le savez pas. Vous avez des belles entreprises qui sont détenues en partie par la mafia, mais ils ne vont pas vous le dire, nous c'est la mafia, bienvenue chez nous.
The mafia has infiltrated wholesale markets, supermarket chains, and large European companies. How far does their influence reach?
Oggi assistiamo a forme di criminalità più evolute, cioè non si va più a estorcere il commerciante, l'imprenditore, ma è la stessa criminalità che diventa imprenditrice. È un salto di qualità.
The food processing industry and the billions that it generates has an irresistible attraction for traffickers of all kinds. We probably only know the tip of the iceberg of this hidden world. It is partially because more and more of our food comes from other continents. Under the effects of globalization, all food industries are bringing in ever-increasing amounts of food at increasingly competitive prices.
Souvent, les produits qu'on achète, nous, en tant qu'acheteurs ou traders, on ne les voit pas. Donc pour nous, c'est juste un nom, une ligne de code sur un écran ou un cahier des charges.
La mondialisation, elle augmente le risque de fraude parce qu'on perd le contrôle de la longueur des chaînes, des intervenants tout le long de la chaîne d'approvisionnement.
One food in particular is subject to international trafficking. It is synonymous with health food, yet it is one of the most counterfeited. The control of fraudsters has increased since fish is no longer caught in coastal areas, but in distant seas. Tuna, in particular, has sparked the interest of fraudsters. To meet the growing demand for raw tuna consumption, a very specific market held by 200 seafood professionals has been established in Europe. This fish is caught in the Pacific or Indian Ocean, then quickly frozen at -18 degrees. Its red meat has high value and is expensive. The arrival of raw tuna at low prices raised the alarm. In 2015, a dozen manufacturers, including French, German and Italian, realized that their business was at risk. One of them agreed to testify, although with his face hidden.
Un professionnel ne peut pas croire qu'un produit est à moitié prix sans qu'il y ait un souci. C'est totalement impossible.
These seafood manufacturers secretly conducted their own investigation.
En cherchant à comprendre, on s'est rendu compte qu'il y avait, comme c'est assez souvent le cas maintenant, un ajout d'eau pour faire baisser le prix de revient. Le but de l'ajout d'eau, c'est la compétitivité.
Une grosse partie des filets de poisson surgelés, voire même frais, sont souvent injectés au saumure. Donc vous avez dans le produit une injection sous pression de saumure avec des polyphosphates, avec des éléments qui permettent de conserver l'eau à l'intérieur.
These are illegal practices from Indonesia, Vietnam and China. Gorging fish with water in this way increases their weight and makes them more expensive, a widespread fraud technique. However, there is something much more serious in the case of tuna.
On s'est rendu compte qu'il y avait surtout un changement radical de matière première, dont la qualité n'avait rien à voir avec la qualité perceptible par le consommateur. Et cette différence, elle est générée par des traitements chimiques.
They filmed this discovery secretly during a visit to a Spanish competitor. That day, they noticed the presence of strange machinery through which the brown tuna loins were passing. Butchers are allowed to use them. They are used to inject nitrates, a preservative that gives the hams their brightness and pink colour. Their use, however, is becoming more and more controversial. Immediately, the manufacturers understood that their competitors had found a trick to turn the tuna red.
Le thon a une particularité, c'est que le consommateur juge sa valeur par sa couleur. Donc s'il est rouge, il vaut plus cher, s'il est marron, il vaut pas cher. Et là, en l'occurrence, c'est un produit marron bas de gamme qui a été transformé en un produit rouge pour pouvoir le vendre comme un haut de gamme.
We replicated this chemical transformation in the laboratory. The injection of nitrates will allow the oxidized meat to regain its color within a few hours. This recolored tuna, which can be mistaken for fresh tuna, is likely to cause intoxication and allergic shock.
Si on met sur le marché des produits qui sont pas bons, qui font pas plaisir au consommateur, il va s'en détourner. La deuxième chose, c'est que s'ils sont pas bons pour sa santé, un jour on risque un clash médiatique qui peut tuer un marché.
The dissident industry group, driven by fear of scandal, decided to lay everything out on the table.
Dans un premier temps, on est allé voir les autorités françaises. Les autorités françaises nous ont dit soit, mais on ne sait pas quoi faire et puis de toute façon on n'a pas assez de moyens, donc c'est pas à nous de nous en occuper. Donc on s'est adressé à la communauté européenne.
Eux, ils avaient la certitude que c'était de la fraude. Effectivement, ça nous a paru tout de suite très sérieux. Très complexe, mais très sérieux.
In 2016, a Spanish police search discovered that the whistleblowers were not wrong. Here is tuna caught in El Salvador and Panama. The brown flesh indicates that they should no longer be eaten raw. we will also find the injection machines and high doses of nitrates. Despite all this evidence, the incriminated Spanish manufacturers tried to defend themselves.
Vous avez des industries qui viennent avec des juristes et qui vont dire que ce qu'ils font est légal. Et donc il y a une pression qui s'établit sur les autorités compétentes. Donc les autorités compétentes, avec le soutien juridique de la Commission, ont établi que les industries, celles-ci espagnoles, donc, utilisaient ces produits à tort et donc leur ont interdit de les utiliser.
Despite this, the fraud continued. In 2017, there were 454 cases of poisoning in Europe due to tuna spiked with nitrates. This is a dangerous health hazard, and the European Commission had to react.
80% du secteur qui fournissait ce thon frais était affecté. Donc ça voulait dire qu'on avait quasiment tout le marché européen qui était affecté par cette fraude. Donc ce qui s'est passé, c'est qu'on a monté ces opérations, cette fois-ci, dans le cadre d'Europol.
Europol is the European crime-fighting organisation. They mobilised the police force of 11 different countries. This operation shut down one of the largest food trafficking operations in 2018. The result was a record 131 tons of seized tuna.
Ça a été la première collaboration sur un sujet européen et ça a été un franc succès.
This is one of the most important trafficking operations that has been shut down to date. 79 criminals were arrested throughout Europe in several illegal workshops, notably in Spain but also in France, Italy and Malta. Thanks to the monitoring of the network, the investigators learned that the quantities of nitrates used had the fraudsters complaining of severe itching. The fraudsters managed to make up to 12 million euros in profit per year. It is an incredibly lucrative fraud that has not ended with the impressive takedown of the network. Despite the increased controls throughout Europe, tuna spiked with various chemicals are still seized on a regular basis.
These 4 cases are about products produced in Vietnam.
Within the food fraud network, European officials are experiencing an increased number of alerts on potential frauds year after year. They now affect all food products.
Ce qu'on sait de manière certaine, c'est que la fraude alimentaire se développe de manière exponentielle. Et c'est de plus en plus inquiétant. Tout le monde s'alarme de l'ampleur que ça prend.
How do you deal with such a tidal wave? Fraudsters enjoy all the facilities offered by a world where the free movement of goods is key. Throughout the supply chain, the responsibilities that manufacturers have are therefore immense. Importers, traders, processors, wholesalers. Legally, these are the guarantors of the authenticity of what we eat. To do this, they perform thousands of tests each year called self-checks. Although it's impossible to know how many frauds are detected this way, the results of these self-checks are kept in the dark.
Il faut savoir que la fraude alimentaire, si les industriels la constatent par des autocontrôles ou sont au courant ou ont relevé ça sur leur chaîne d'approvisionnement, eh bien, ils n'ont absolument aucune obligation de faire remonter l'information aux autorités. Et ça, c'est un vrai problème.
Only frauds dangerous to health must be disclosed to the authorities. The others, which are more numerous, depend on the goodwill of the manufacturers.
Les industriels ne rapportent encore pas assez aux autorités compétentes les suspicions de fraude qu'elles font. Il faut bien avoir conscience que l'industrie, ce sont eux qui font le plus de contrôles.
Il faudrait améliorer la réglementation européenne pour faire peser des nouvelles obligations sur les industriels.
C'est une question de volonté et de courage. De courage, d'indépendance par rapport au lobby, par exemple. D'accepter d'être moins copain-copain avec les grosses multinationales, d'être moins dans la main avec la finance. Donc ça veut dire réellement considérer que la priorité est du côté du consommateur et pas de l'industriel ou de ceux qui ont les poches pleines.
This impunity extends to the representatives of large distribution chains. They too have a legal obligation to put food on the shelves that is what it claims to be. However, they are almost never prosecuted in cases of food fraud.
Il faudrait que les chaînes de supermarchés soient obligées de faire des tests, soient obligées de montrer patte blanche pour enrayer la fraude. Pourquoi ? Parce que s'ils étaient obligés de faire ces tests et donc de produire les résultats, ils s'exposeraient potentiellement à des sanctions qui seraient catastrophiques et puis une mauvaise publicité. Donc, quelque part, ce cercle serait vertueux. Donc, il faut changer les règles du jeu qui s'imposent à ces acteurs extrêmement puissants.
At the end of our journey into the heart of fraud, we can no longer look at our food in the same way. How many of these products are counterfeit without anyone noticing? How many fraudsters are we funding with our globalized food consumption patterns? No one is aware of the extent of the fraud, and yet a widespread concern is spreading. Consumers are increasingly concerned about the effects of food on their health. By targeting our food, criminals and professional fraudsters are making us feel increasingly worried about what is really on our plates.